In this video, I'm going to show you how to place the window regulator on this Nissan Pathfinder. We're working on the driver's side, but the same procedure applies to the passenger side. Let's get started. Let's start by removing this little cap on the door handle right here. Open this up, and with a pocket screwdriver or a little pick, whatever you have, get into the front of it, just like that. Pop it open. That exposes a 10mm fastener. Let's remove that. Take that out, set it aside. Right by the grab handle, use a trim tool, preferably a plastic one, but sometimes you just can't get those in here. Pry this cap off of here, cover. This will expose 2 more 10mm fasteners. Let's get both of those out. With those out, let's move on to the master window switch. Pry this up and out. This will expose all the electrical connectors that we have to unplug to get this out of here. The lock for this one's on the back side. Wiggle it out of place. Get this one off, and the mirror switch. All right. Now let's remove the door panel. You can grab it from the inner part here, pull away. All the plastic clips should unhook. There we go. Now you can pull it up and slightly away from the door, but keep in mind the door handle is still connected on the back side. Pry the cables straight out and up and out from their retainer here. This lower one will just have a round ball attachment. This one will be more of a hook type. Get this out of here. There you go. That's how you make sure they go in the same spot. Now you can pull the door panel away. And now with the door panel off, let's remove this vapor barrier so we can access everything. Make sure that this butyl tape doesn't get on your clothes because it is very sticky and it's really hard to remove. Pull this off. If you wanted to pull it off completely, you can. I will. You don't have to. You can just let it hang down at this point, but it's just going to get in the way. So I'm going to pull it off the rest of the way and set it aside. Of course, make sure that this butyl tape stays away from anything. I turn my ignition on to the on position. You don't have to start the car for this. And then I'm going to reconnect the window switch, put this window up. Oh, looks like I have to reconnect some more. There we go. I'm going to put this window up. Now, if yours was already up, then obviously you don't have to worry about it. But basically, we're looking for these mounting screws here. There's one on the outer part, and then there's going to be another one, which I can just barely see through this access hole here. So that's what I thought. I'm going to have to remove this vapor barrier, the little one. And there's the other one. So if you line up the window to about this level, we're going to be able to unbolt it from the regulator itself and separate the glass. At this point, now that I lined it up, I'm going to unplug my window switch and of course turn on the ignition, or turn off the ignition. I don't want to drain the battery. And I want to unplug the switch so that the window cannot operate anymore. Now, let's grab a 10mm socket and take these out. Once again, 10mm socket, remove these screws. They shouldn't be very tight, and they're actually pretty small. Take this one out as well. Keep in mind, at this point, the window is not secured to anything anymore, the glass that is. So you want to be careful with what you do. At this point, when we pull the window up, you can either pull it up and tape it to the door or remove it from the door itself. Very slowly, slide this window up. Make sure it's seated. Hold it. Once you get it up, tape some painter's tape on the outside of the window. The reason I like to use painter's tape is because it does not leave any sort of sticky residue behind. If you use other type of tape, it is more likely to leave glue on your window, and then it's not going to be fun scraping it off. Loop it over the door and stick it to the inside. And I like to do about 3 pieces of tape. Of course, once you put the first one on, you can let go. Just be very careful because it can still fall down. But the more layers of tape you put on, the safer it will be. There we go. And last one over here. Every time I put a piece of tape up, I like to pull the window up again just so I can make sure that it's still up in position. All right. And now the window will be temporarily held up safely for us to work on the window regulator. Now let's unplug the window motor. It has this connector that's recessed into the door. stick your fingernail in there and press the tab. If you can't, just use a pocket screwdriver or something to help you press it down. So now with that disconnected, right below it, right here, you'll see a 10mm screw. Let's remove this. Okay, take that bolt out. Now the regulator is held on with 4 more mounting nuts, 10mm each. There's basically 1 on each corner if this were to form a square. So 1 at the top here. If you move to the left, there's another one. And then further down. Okay. Be careful because this one is now loose. Last one is on the rail that we started with, but on the bottom. Whoa. Okay. Now pull this regulator backwards and down, and there's one side. And then this side you can access through here, slide that back and push it this way. Now you can take both of these rails out together. I'm gonna have to do some maneuvering here just to find the right angle that it wants to slide out at. Oh, there we go. Twist it, turn it, make sure you're not pulling on any other wires. And there is the regulator with motor. Now we have to transfer the motor to the new regulator. 3 4mm Allen screws hold this motor onto the regulator. So let's take these off of here. Save these because we will reuse them on the new regulator. Oh, there we go. Motor fell out. Flip this over. There's your motor. And now we have to put it on the new regulator. Here's the new regulator. This piece actually comes separated just for shipping purposes. So it has 2 tabs. I'm going to click it back together, just like that. So now these 2 are connected, and basically you want it facing the same way as the original. You can just lay them out on a bench or on the ground and compare the 2, but the square drive with the white plastic piece has to be facing up towards you. When you flip it over, this is all you should see, just like on the original. So now we can flip it back this way because we have to line up that square drive with the motor. Now it may not line up exactly the same just because the cables are not going to be in the same exact position, but as long as you get it to drop in, you can then manually turn it. And I got it right here. Okay, so once you get it lined up, press on it, and there we go. Turn it. You should be able to manually turn it until you get the bolt holes to line up. Hold this together with your hand, otherwise it'll fall off, of course. Oh, just like that. But you should be able to see the threads through these holes on the back side. Now you can drop these screws back in. Of course, make sure they don't cross thread. You don't want this to come apart inside the door. I'm going to start one. Once I start the first one, it'll kind of hold it in place for me, but don't tighten it because you still need to move this around to line up the other ones most likely. Once you line up 2 and start them in, this should be pretty much all set and lined up for the third one. Okay, so now that we have them all in, let's tighten them up. Make sure they're seated all the way. The screws have a little washer on them. That needs to be flush up against the plastic. And the reason I'm saying that is because they have a little shank to them, which basically, it's kind of like a sleeve that seats the screw down into the mounting hole, so you want to make sure that that's properly seated. Make them snug, don't over tighten them, they're small and they can break, so once they bottom out, just give them a little extra. Make sure they're all evenly tightened. And there we go. Now we can mount this back in the vehicle. Now move these cables out of the way. Let's slide the new regulator with the motor into the door. Make sure you're not pinching any wires as you do this. There is a wiring harness back there. Once you slide in the inboard arm here, reach through the other opening and lock it in. I'm going to try and hold both up at the same time just because the cables are basically pulling against each other as you do this. You can also try to line up the motor right here. Once you line that up, it might be easier to just pivot it around there to find, oh, there we go. Found the holes on this, and let's get this through. Found the the holes there. Perfect. So it's seated in. Now let's put the 4 mounting nuts on so we can actually lock it onto the door. Okay, thread these on. You don't have to tighten them completely yet. I'm going to start all of them on. And the last one is down here. Now let's tighten them up. And last bolt was right in the middle here where the motor is. Perfect. That's all tightened up. Might as well connect the window motor at this point. We'll need it so we can move the regulator. There we go. Let's plug the window switch back in. The 2 white connectors are what you need to operate the window. Bring this down just a little bit, right there. We can see both mounting areas, so now I'm going to unplug it, turn the ignition back off. Carefully take the tape off of the window, hold it at the same time. You don't want it to slide down. If it slides down and hits something, the glass will most likely break. Okay, last piece of tape. There we go. Now, very slowly slide it down. Now, as you bring it down, keep in mind it can actually slide sideways a little bit. You want to make sure it does not, otherwise it can fall out of its track. And it has a little pin here. The pin needs to line up with this groove. That's what helps you line it up. So it's got a pin here and a pin on the front side. Perfect. That's all lines up. So very carefully let go of it. Hold it if you want to, but carefully put these mounting screws back in here. Start them in. All right, that one's started. Start this one. And now I'm not going to use a power tool on this. I don't want to send a bunch of vibrations through the glass. I'm just going to do this by hand. And I don't want to over tighten this. I don't want to break the plastic. This has a plastic piece there that basically holds the window. Just give it a little snug after you're bottomed out. And that's it. The glass is mounted back onto the regulator, so we can put everything back together now. Let's cover this back up. Your butyl tape should still be sticky. If it's not, you could just use any other type of tape or buy more butyl tape and stick it here. It's important that these holes are covered properly and sealed up. The vapor barrier prevents moisture and water from getting inside the door panel. It'll make it stay on the outer part of the door, and also wind noise. This does protect against some wind noise as you drive down the road. This bigger one, make sure you stick the cables through the opening. Just like that. And then just try to line it up the best you can here. Okay, there we have it. Let's get the door panel back together. Let's get the door handle cables back in. The one with the round ball on the end is for the actual handle, so it goes on the bottom. Slide it in. The one with the hook is on the top for the lock. Hook that in. Slide it over. Lock it into the door handle. Now you can line up the panel. Once it's lined up, press it in. Just has a bunch of push clips that go all around. If it's not lined up, don't force them because they will break. 2 screws right in here on the grab handle. 1 and 2. Of course, let's cover it up. Make sure that cover clicks in place. 1 right here by the door handle. And now let's cover this one up as well. And the window switch as well as the mirror switch, plug those in. Make sure all the connectors click, otherwise they will not completely engage here. And then this has a hook on the front. You want to hook this in first. put it down, and then snap it in the back. And that's it.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.